Hyper Potato!
What's up, man? You are right. It is almost comic book party time. If I had that stupid banana gif where he's like,
oh, I can't retweet it because I already retweeted it.
Oh, that's why I quote tweet.
I thought about that. Yeah.
You could untweet to retweet.
I'll just retweet the retweet. Make a nested tweet.
There,
sub.
So many levels.
And Terry Moore, hey!
I think you make her.
2 in the house. No, not at all.
No, you don't. Okay.
Nope. I remind her, when we go live, although this time I didn't have to, and that's all I ever say. She knows that she doesn't have to if she doesn't want to. Tonight
was salad and ice cream. Is that what y'all had?
No, it was blueberry cobbler.
Oh, okay.
Homemade with cream.
Oh, it's homemade. Nice.
Homemade. Nice. Yes. Literally in the house. Yeah. just a couple yards away.
Yeah. Not too far away.
So much so that she can hear me talking in real time and hear the broadcast also. So she gets that.
I wonder how much of a
20-second.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a good delay too.
Hey, Terry, do something to try to keep track and tell me what the lag is between real and what you're hearing on the recording.
All right, hold a sec.
See what she says.
I've got to get my hair cut. It is getting in my face.
Nah, just let it go.
I know,
brother. No, just let it go.
As you saw, I shaved the other day.
Yeah.
I was like, I shaved before Karen got back from her trip. I was just like, there is no way I'm gonna let her go in this
baby
house.
Behind there the last time.
That's what they said when I came back to the office, because our teams we're all over the, like we've got some people who are in Raleigh, some who are in Charlotte, some who are in South Carolina. And so anyway, so we got on there and, they were all like, oh, it's good to have you back, and everything. And I have this old picture of me in our team chat that is, that the company did 5 years ago or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And so, and I made a comment. I was like, yes, I don't look anything like that photo or something like that. And they were like, oh, has your beard gotten longer or something to that effect? And the girl who I work with, who's across the cubicle from me, she was like, oh no, he came in, he's all like baby faced and everything.
Yep.
That's how I like to be referred to, as baby faced. Makes me feel younger.
Terry always tells me when I trim it that I always look younger. Cut my hair, I always look younger. So yep. I don't know why we associate longer with older, but that seems to be the
one of those things.
Yeah.
All right. So I know I don't know if he's in the chat. I don't know if he's watching us. Because I also know that he probably can't comment because his parents didn't allow him to do so.
Your nephew?
But if my nephew James is watching.
Okay, James, this is a shout out to James.
This is a shout out to you. Thanks for watching, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man.
Now you can go back and watch Fortnite or play Fortnite. So
any feedback, you can tell Chris and he'll share it next time. Stephen Orr!
Oh, Stephen took time out
of
a busy editing evening to join us. That's awesome.
From his editing.
Stephen is the only person I know that I have tried to inquire to pay them to do work to talk me out of it. So
he tried to talk you out of it?
No, well, I mean, he did talk me out of it. He was like, because he was like, well, what are you looking for? And we kind of talked back and forth, and then I said, yeah, you're probably right. Probably didn't think that through before I said anything.
Oh well, Hyper, we're sorry, dog. What should I don't know how to help you out there.
My father wouldn't like me commenting on a comic show.
Nice. And there you go, Chris. The delay's about 10 seconds.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So that's not too bad.
Yeah. And Stephen, I'm an idiot. We all know. we all are a bit idiotic at times.
Now, I will say, Stephen today threw out probably one of the coolest comic book podcasting ideas I have heard in a very long time.
Oh, good.
And
tell everybody so they can steal it.
In my head, I ran with it. He knows what it was.
Oh, okay.
And what you could, me and dumb too. What you could do, Stephen, is make a show, not just of one, but every week do a different one for that show. You know, call it the whatever banner, and then every week release an episode differently than the week before or the week after. And you could just keep doing that for as many as you have, or just rotate every, you know, however many you have, every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks or something like that, and just keep that thing going. And that would be an awesome resource. My suggestion would be doing that with ones that are totally faded.
Oh.
So Doug S, hey guys, I hope everyone is doing well. I am doing well. I'm already very, very talkative because here in about 45 minutes or an hour, I'll crash.
He's gonna go to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just be like, take it, Chris.
All right. Just kinda you'll see his head kind of droop a little bit.
No, I'll
not that he's bored.
Like,
he is
like this
tired.
watching. Yep.
Yes.
Particularly those that nobody has put up would be the best idea.
Okay.
Well, just when different ones come to mind, the only thing I know to do is just ask for who was involved and just shout them out or message them on Twitter and say, you know, hey, yo, this is something I'm thinking about. The most difficult thing I would think is getting people to release the rights. In essence, you know, I mean, they're not going to have that kind of control, or the thing is to make sure that any attribution is right on the money. Say at the end of every episode, Twitter contacts if that's what they want, a Facebook page if that's what they want, and just be sure to do that. The setting up all of the individuals would be the most difficult thing, but once you have that going and you have a system, you would just plug into that system, man, and just keep those things going. And I told Chris back when we were hunting up the one that you were talking about today, about having some kind of resource where people could go online to find those and do that. So claim them all as my own. Yeah, unless you have a whole bunch of funky voices where we'll know that they're not yours.
It is Steven. So
well. He's the ones coming out now. His retro shows. He has 3 voices in his own, so he's got 4 right now.
So many.
He added a new one here a couple episodes ago that I didn't remember.
See, I gotta catch up. I'm behind. Going on vacation messes me up as far as podcast listening. So, all right. So let's go ahead and jump into the show.
Let's do it.
So appreciate everybody coming into the chat and joining us here. We'll go ahead and get the show going. As always, you're more than welcome to comment away, and we will add to the main screen as appropriate. Please be appropriate once you get in there, and then we'll have some fun talking comics and things like that. You know, have a good time.
Yep.
All right, in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to Comic Addiction. This is episode number 142. I am one of your co-hosts, Chris Barton, and with me as always, working with a cord of some kind on the screen. I apologize if you're listening to us on the show and the audio format.
Sorry.
That is Mr. Ed Moore. Ed, how are you?
Making way too much inappropriate noise. I'm afraid I'll have to remember to mute it when I fart because the chair it reverberates really well.
Oh, it's just you like playing with a cord or something.
Yeah, I was moving.
All right, hold on a sec. Let me minimize our screens a little bit here on YouTube so you can see our wonderful comic book-esque background.
Fancy background. Ooh, looky.
Yeah, it's more because I just don't want that zoomed in all the way on my face like that.
Oh, okay.
So, I'd like you to look at all the mess that's behind me, the attempt at trying to organize comics. It does not work. Not for me, it doesn't. So.
Oh, okay. I mean, you're making some headway. You had a list that you
and that's the thing. No, it's out there.
Okay.
I officially have a list of everything I'm trying to sell. So
what was that, on Twitter? Did you do that?
yeah,
Instagram?
actually
Where did I see it?
I've updated it. I need to put the link back out there. But
Oh,
yeah, it was
okay.
on Twitter. Yeah, it's pinned to my Twitter profile.
Oh,
So,
okay. That's where I saw it. Okay.
so yeah. So there's maybe one of these days we'll talk about all of that. But not tonight's show.
But
That's,
today is not
but
that day.
exactly, Keanu.
But we are changing things up a little bit today.
Yep.
Because this past weekend we had the Comic Book Media Mecca meeting, better known as SDCC.
The Mecca meeting.
The Mecca meeting, yes.
It's about what it was like.
Right, people come from the West, and no, I'm not going to say anything and make fun of that. That's not cool. And so we have set aside our FOC discussion this week to each talk about our three favorite, or the things we're most looking forward to that were announced at SDCC. So that'll be the first section of the show, and then we'll do our new releases and then some reviews. So
yep. So I will say, going into talking about these announcements and stuff like that, it was kind of difficult for me. Now, there's a lot that was said, and there was a lot that was revealed, and all these panels and stuff like that, and movies, and it's one of those things where, like, I'm excited for. Well, I don't even say excited. I really like a lot of what I saw, but trying to find the thing that was like, oh, I'm like super excited about that. I wasn't like super excited. Really, the only thing, and you'll actually be talking about it in a little bit. There's really only one thing that like was super exciting to me, and you grabbed the announcement first. So I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll talk about it, which is good. But the rest of it is just kind of like, oh, some good, comic news and announcements of some new series and stuff like that we were going to know regardless of San Diego.
right. Yeah.
But still, it happened then, and so.
Well, honestly, though, I mean, if you cut out the Marvel part of it, both the TV and the movie, that was like 2/3 of all the individual things that we're talking about. Now, all of that, of course, falls under one, but you take that out of the equation, and it's like, well, I heard like 5 or 6 other things, and that was it. But I heard about every single movie and TV show, and I'm like, ah.
And I really enjoy those things. I mean, as far as just the MCU and everything, I really enjoy a large majority of what I've seen. Now I'm a little bit behind on some of the Disney Plus stuff, but so to kind of hear and see some of those trailers and stuff like that, I was like, even DC's one trailer for Shazam, I was like, that looked pretty good. So,
but it's most of that is not new per se.
No,
and even one of the ones that I'm talking about wasn't new, but it was more information, and it was just particularly exciting because when I heard it back, I was like, now that's going to be cool. And so,
all right, let's go ahead and jump in to our 6 picks on San Diego Comic-Con's announcement. So what do you got first?
My very first one is one of the intellectual properties that I have always been the most excited to hear about. I have every iteration of every book involving this character. Several of the side books that in between namesake books that they appeared in, and hardcover and softcover and individual issues. And by the way, have I ever said I hate the word floppies? Oh, well, I do. Just every way that it's come out, even the animated series I have also. So the announcement, which was out of the blue, I hadn't heard any rumblings about this or anything, that Darkwing Duck is coming back next year, 2023.
Yep.
Now, I'm looking here to see.
But who's it coming through, though? That was the twist.
Was it IDW?
No.
Dynamite. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that is. Yeah,
Dynamite has worked up, and I won't go into all of the stuff that they released, but yeah, Dynamite has worked out some deal with Disney, which is a huge deal for them. obviously.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Darkwing Duck is part of that. Gargoyles will be another part of it.
That was Gargoyles.
So I'm pretty excited about the Gargoyles part.
Sure. Yeah,
So,
I dug Gargoyles back in the day when it was on.
I think both with Gargoyles and Darkwing, aren't they going to be reproducing or reprinting, some of the original stuff?
I believe that's what I've heard.
Whatever that means.
Yep.
Yeah. So
now Gargoyles was what, Marvel? Is that who put that
Marvel
out
did
back
that.
in the day? And then Darkwing has been Boom. It's been Joe Books. It's been Disney. So it's 3 or 4 publishers, but Disney has the rights regardless. So I could see that they would be able to reprint. Now that's what they need to do. They need to reprint every single thing in one package.
Oh, okay.
From Disney Adventures strips in there to individual comics, annuals, all that. Just get all of his comic-y stuff and put it in one book, please. That would be awesome.
Oh, and Dynamite's the perfect company to do that. They are not afraid to shove everything into one one hardcover and get it out there.
That would be way groovy. There was something else that occurred to me while I was running my mouth, but it has gone away.
I'm sure it'll come back to you.
Probably not, because we'll move on. And so, I don't know, something else about it that I learned that was going to be cool. But
well, aren't they talking about like some of those properties that they've got through Disney? They're not just doing the reprints, not doing just the new stuff, but they're doing like board games or something along those lines too. So
yeah, they're spreading out the IP, which is interesting. Dynamite, I didn't think had that branch.
I didn't either. Yeah,
but
I was
who is
quite curious.
Is it IDW that has?
I know IDW's done some stuff in the past. Yeah.
So maybe that's why I was thinking IDW, because I was remembering the games.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just awesome. Darkwing Duck coming back finally.
When I saw that announcement, because I'm on one of the million of press releases that I get, I'm on Dynamite's media list still, and I got that email shortly before they announced it. And so I was like, oh, I thought it had already been announced. I was like, oh, Ed's gonna be excited about this. And then I didn't hear you or see you say anything on Twitter. And I was just like, well, maybe it hadn't been announced yet. It's like, I'll just keep my mouth shut then and see what happens.
As soon as I saw that one, I retweeted that one. Because that's cool.
Pretty cool. All right, so honestly, if you are if you're a male in the Parton household, which is just me and my son, so the rest of them are female, unless you count the dog. I mean, but the dog doesn't care. He's asleep most of the time anyway. So we're pretty excited about the fact that Daredevil is coming. Daredevil was already part of the MCU with the appearance in the last Spider-Man movie, but having finally get the announcement that he'll be getting his own Disney Plus series. Not only that, it's going to be based on Born Again.
Yes.
And my son is a Daredevil fan, both in comics, more the newer stuff. He's read a good amount of the Mark Waid run, the Charles Soule run, and is a big fan of the Zdarsky stuff. So he's definitely been reading it for quite some time. And now he's not had a chance. Let's see what Charlie said. And you're in trouble when you call DE. That's true. But he is, we had to talk about what Born Again is. Like, he's heard of it, but he's never read it. So we're pretty excited. 18 episodes is what we're going to get.
That's very long.
I have no idea what we're going to get with
that. Is very long, man.
So I know, and I'm not going to recap the Born Again story arc is, but there is it's like 6 issues, like 5-6 issues. There's some ramifications of it that sort of roll out slightly after that, but then there's stuff even after Frank Miller leaves Daredevil that gets brought up like a year or two later. So it's like 18 episodes is a lot. It's a lot going on. It's a big story. Now how close to the comics they'll be, I don't know, but honestly, just the fact that I'm getting some more Daredevil. It's going to be obviously different from Netflix, which is totally fine. And then Steven, I'm totally jazzed for Daredevil and recently reread Born Again. Cool. Yeah, so that's the thing. So I'm thinking about it because I don't know those issues. It's just I hadn't got to that point yet in my back issue hunt. So I'm probably going to pick up that trade so my son and I can read it before that comes out next year. I mean, who knows? I may actually own the issues by then. If they haven't jacked up in price by now, I'm sure they have.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sure they've already gone up.
Yeah. So now that I've said that out loud, yeah, they're already expensive.
So disgusting to see people do that over on eBay. That's just...
That's fine. It's fine.
Oh,
it's discouraging.
Came out in '86. Is that why you've read it, Stephen? Because you started reading Marvel, all of Marvel, starting in '85, and you just come across that in your readings?
Charlie said most Disney shows are too short. Hopefully they can pace it out. I agree to a point. I think some of this, I felt WandaVision was too long, and I felt that Moon Knight wasn't long enough, so yeah, I mean, pacing's been an issue with Disney Plus, the shows I've watched. I haven't watched Miss Marvel yet, although it's on my list, and actually I think that's the only one I haven't watched. So but they've all had some pacing issues, but for the most part they're all been pretty enjoyable. So, but this is not what all this is about. This is just talking about that. And then Charlie Cox is getting paid now. That's a good point. That
was one of the best aspects of that for me, was that it was Charlie Cox that they retained to do that, because of course, because of previously, that now in my mind is Matt Murdock. That's Daredevil.
For sure.
So the thought that they would do a Batman, let's say, with him, I'm like, no, you got to do Charlie Cox. That's who's got to do it if you're going to do it. Just like the Kingpin.
Oh yeah, with Vincent D'Onofrio. Thank you.
That if Kingpin is, which was he in Ms. Marvel? I think
he was in Hawkeye.
Yeah, that's right. And that he's got it. That's his part. If they use Kingpin, it's got to be him as the actor. So yeah.
So Charlie says Miss Marvel is second favorite next to Hawkeye. Impressive. I did enjoy Marvel. I did enjoy Hawkeye. So
yeah, I did too.
All right, so let's move on to what you've got next.
Ooh, yeah, this is kind of a big one, so I'll have to trim it down a little bit. Every year at San Diego Comic-Con, the Eisners are announced. So that was my number 2. That honestly, coming out of San Diego, to be fair, that probably is always the biggest story. I mean, as far as comic books go, now, we have TV and we have She-Hulk is where I've been seeing that he was going to be. Yeah. Since I think it's coming up here pretty soon, getting all the Tatiana Maslany pictures and all the, who else is it? Titania pictures and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. The TV and the movie stuff, that has kind of taken over San Diego as far as the impact, I guess. But don't tell everybody that goes to San Diego though and sells their books and makes tons of money, because comic book fans still go out there.
Yeah.
So the Eisners are always the biggest announcements, I think, for comic books. Let's see, looking through here. Best single issue one shot was Wonder Woman Historia, The Amazons by Kelly Sue and Phil Jimenez, which I have back here on the shelf and I haven't read. Best continuing series, Bitter Root. I didn't realize it was still going.
I didn't either, and I read like the first 6 or 7 issues and really enjoyed it. I just never kept up with it.
Or is it? Or I mean, is it not? But it was out long enough to be considered best continuing.
Maybe.
Maybe. I'm not sure. And the other, Something is Killing. That almost has to be a gimme for it to not win at all. Something just like profound has to come through to dethrone that book right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Best limited series, Good Asian.
I read the first issue. That was one I was definitely going to wait until trade or pick up, but I've heard a lot of good stuff about it.
New series was New House on the Lake, another James Tynion.
Yep.
For me, I was particularly excited to see that the best publication for early readers was Chibi Usagi, Attack of the
Yeah.
Heebie-Chibis by Stan Sakai and his
I'm
wife,
sure
Julie.
you were.
Yeah, I have that. And next year, I'll finally get to the point where I'll cover it on the Ronin Rabbit.
Oh, cool.
I didn't cover it this year because, well, I had all those pretty much recorded. So let's see. Hang with me here real quick, guys. Let me go through here. Chris, I don't know if there's any others that you want to name. Best reality-based work, The Black Panther Party, A Graphic History. People may or may not be interested, but what got my attention was that it was by David Walker and Marcus Kwame Anderson.
Yep.
Best graphic memoir was Run, Book 1 by John Lewis, about John Lewis.
I have not had a chance to read that. I actually picked up book 1, but I need to go get book 2. I should have just bought them as a set, but I don't know why I didn't.
Yeah. Graphic album reprint, The Complete American Gods.
Well, the graphic album New Monsters by Barry Windsor Smith, that's definitely one to check out.
And it was like coffee table, kill somebody if you hit them with it size. It was like over 300
pages. If
you
have never checked out Barry Windsor Smith stuff, if you're a new reader, like someone in the last 5 or 6 years and have even 10 years and have never really spent some time admiring Barry Windsor Smith's work, you need to. You'll be great. Your enjoyment of comics will be elevated because of it.
Best writer, James Tynion.
Makes sense.
So Forrest Gump ruined one of the Run books. Charlie, is that what you're alluding to? Penciler inker was Phil Jimenez on Wonder Woman Historia. So that's the second nod for that book.
Yeah. Notice best writer artist is Barry Windsor Smith for Monsters.
Yes. Cover artist was Jen Bartel, beating out.
Oh, for sure.
David Mack, beating out Alex Ross, who
that's
are
a
like
stack list. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are like industry icons as far as cover work goes right now, particularly Alex Ross, man. If you have made it if you are first over Alex Ross in a category. That is yep, you have arrived. You are, as they say in the wrestling profession, over.
Yes, for sure.
Hyper Potato, the announcement that had me most excited at SDCC. Yes, the return of May's agency.
Oh, for sure, yeah. That was that was a nice announcement.
Adam Hughes, I mean, I don't know why. I guess it's just a matter of whether they want to pay his going fee now for his covers, but I would think that he would be kind of sentimentally attached and maybe willing to make agreements to do covers if there are some issues, just so that he can be involved in that property again, because that was a very early, very popular property that he was involved in.
Yep. Doug S. Barry Windsor Smith is amazing. I remember his covers and his X-Men work. But oh, for sure. That's where I got first introduced to him, for sure.
Oh, man, if you say X-Men, it's got to be the Storm Forge story.
Oh, yeah.
And Wolverine Weapon X. I mean, that's why X-Men fans know who he is because of those works there.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Barry Windsor Smith for best lettering for the previously mentioned Monsters.
And Mr. Ed Dukeshire was nominated for that, but to lose out to Barry Windsor Smith.
Well, that's not. I don't think you lose to Barry Windsor Smith. You just kind of step aside and let him pass on the left and just go on about your travels.
Yes, thank you,
best comic book related book was All the Marvels by Douglas Wolk, which I read.
Oh, okay, cool. I hadn't read that.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk off air about that.
Oh, okay.
Best digital comic, Snow Angels by Jeff Lemire and Jacques from Comixology Originals. So those are the highlights. There were as many categories as what I mentioned that I didn't mention. So there's many, many more than I thought at first as well.
Yeah.
Life, Death. Yes, that was the Storm Forge story.
Oh, yeah. That's right. It's a good arc if you've not read it before.
All right, Chris, what's your...
All right, so my next one is So I've talked about my love, or my returning love, or my return to my love of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so over the last year or so, I've really been diving back into them. So when they announced the last Ronin, I was pretty excited about that. Missed out on the first issue because I'm an idiot and decided to wait till the hardcover came out. So I got that. A little disappointed in the hardcover size because it's smaller than the actual issues. As far as like instead of being sort of the golden age type size, it's just a regular comic book hardcover size. Seems to be a failure there.
Yeah.
But either way, so but they did announce in November of 2022 a new 5-issue miniseries is going to come out following up the last Ronin series, set in that same world, but called The Lost Years. And so it's going to be written by Kevin Eastman and Tom Waltz. Obviously, I mean you always have to have the two of them involved now. Art's going to be S.L. Gallant, and returning artist Ben Bishop will all be working on the series. So it's, I'm not going to miss out on picking up these issues this time. And I'm going to have to go back and find the issues for Last Ronin, which is fine. That was my fault. I'm not going to blame anybody for that one. So I'm looking forward to it. I really enjoyed Last Ronin and can't wait. And Charlie is right. Now everyone is doing a Last Ronin story. You are not wrong there. But I'm pretty excited about this. For me, it's just getting more of this sort of. I love Elseworlds kind of stories, and that's kind of what this is, maybe. So we'll see. Maybe they'll do some more.
Did somebody say somewhere that basically this is going to be the story of how he got to be the last Ronin? Isn't that what this story is?
It's part of that. I don't remember reading in the article that was recapping that panel that said that this is how it got there, but it definitely is sort of talking about and dealing with some of the events that do lead to that. So I don't know if they're actually going to, the end of this miniseries will be the beginning of the first miniseries kind of thing. But I do think we're going to see sort of where all of that goes. Did I see they did do, I saw on YouTube, someone did do a CG Last Ronin it was pretty good until I watched it on my TV downstairs. When I look at it on my computer monitor, it looked really, really good. When you blow it up on 4K, it sort of falls apart a little bit. But other than that's no fault to anybody. That's just work with what you got. But I really did enjoy it. The tone of it was spot on. So it just kind of all of this little stuff about TMNT just gets me super excited. So,
alrighty. My final biggie was more information on the BRZRKR Anime that we had heard about way back at the beginning of the BRZRKR cycle. Shall we say? We were told that they had big screen, little screen, comic book, all wrapped up in one idea, one contract, however that works out. Getting a little bit more information about that, particularly for me, is that the Japanese production company that will be doing it is the same that did Ghost in the Shell, which was some awesome animation, and the style that will do BRZRKR right. Having read the story and seen what goes on, I'll be curious to see how it meshes with the comic. I would almost prefer that one is a linear aspect of the other, whichever way they want to go.
Right.
Now I understand,
and they're talking about this being 2 seasons too.
Yeah, of who knows, 8, 10, 12 episodes each, probably.
Yeah.
Going to be on Netflix. So they're saying all the right things as far as I think the quality of this work. Not that I had concerns about that. But I mean, just, you know, every Netflix, okay, well, that's a good call. This animation, well, that's a good call. The property is a good property to animate. Keanu Reeves being involved, which I guess is kind of
no brainer.
a given, you know, either obviously the likeness of B will be he, and he will probably voice B as well. I mean, you got him. So yeah, just more information on the BRZRKR Anime kind of got me excited, more excited to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, and it's, you know, in them announcing we're going to get 2 seasons of that, and then obviously an live action movie at some point too. And then they said that there's going to be a novel of Berserker 2, not a novelization of something, but like just more of the story.
Yeah.
And even Keanu was not allowed to talk about who is going to be writing it, although they say it's a big name writer in prose. So I don't know. Yeah, even I was you know, bugging my wife. I was like, give me some names. Give me somebody who you would think would do this. That, you know, it's like, why would he not be able to announce that unless a contract just hadn't been signed yet, or, you know, those kind of things. But
Greg Rucka,
I don't know. I mean,
that would be pretty cool.
I'm really kind of interested in sort of seeing, you know, as much as I know we're enjoying the comic, like what does this do?
Patterson.
James Patterson.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't get my mouse down there to click on that, but you're right. Yeah, that
Chuck
would be
Wendig
good.
would be excellent. James Patterson is too busy. His name is on every novel as it is, so he doesn't have the time to ghost write, co-write, semi-write, whatever he does. So
I would like a Greg Rucka or
Chuck Wendig would. Now
Chuck Wendig would be real good. Yeah,
he would put a particularly horror. He could. I'll say put a particularly horror-y slant on it if that's the way they wanted the prose to go. Now, I wonder if somebody like, well, no, it's already established, but like a Kellen Bunn, if he would do something like this.
I ain't no telling, man.
That would definitely be dark if he did it.
Just the plans and just sort of this ever-growing Berserker world that they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, it just the folks that kind of scoffed at this when it was first announced, just the comic book, you know, Keanu Reeves is doing a comic book. Yeah, whatever, you know, and he's making a franchise out of it, folks. And he's, like you said, he's got all the right things in the right place. So I was going to say, Patterson doesn't actually write anymore, but it's all ghost. Oh, talking about James Patterson.
Yeah, that's how his name is on 3 books a month. It's pretty obvious that he doesn't actually write.
He's full of ideas.
He oversees.
Just can't write fast enough.
He coaches, or I don't know how you would position what Mr. Patterson does anymore.
Yeah. All right. So to finish these things out, and really not even comic related, kind of comic related, was the announcement that Heavy Metal Entertainment is going to be taking properties from the Heavy Metal magazine and you know, creating a quote unquote metalverse is what they called it, for a slate of film and TV adaptations. I was more just kind of stunned by that. I was like, because there's a lot of properties that have crossed through the pages, especially now, a lot of stuff that, you know, because they're publishing comics and stuff like that. They're stuff that has appeared in the magazine that they're putting in a comic book format, or vice versa, or whatever. There's a lot of stuff. So, they've named a few things in the article. Obviously, Tarna, who's, you know, the flagship character of Heavy Metal. If you've ever seen a Heavy Metal thing, she's the one with the sword above her head, you know, flying the pterodactyl and everything. They've got, let's see what else they have. Cold Dead War, which is a George C. Romero thing. Darkwing, which is Matthew Medney. Arena Mode, which is Blake Northcutt. And a couple other things. Sun Eater, which is by Dylan Sprouse and Joe Harris. And then I saw they have a clip. If you go over to the Beat, comicsbeat.com, they have an article that sort of recaps all this stuff, but they released a sort of like a sizzle reel of what they showed at the panel. And if I knew I wouldn't get copyright struck or whatever like that on YouTube, I would show it. But but you can go over there and check it out. But it's all the live action, but they were showing all of the other properties and stuff like that that they were going to do, and there's way more than just what was listed in the article. So they could go for a very long time with some of the stuff. They were talking about how the TV show is going to be sort of a heavy metal magazine anthology series.
Show? That would be cool.
So, and that had me pretty excited. I don't know who, and I'm kind of scrolling through right now just to see if it says who's going to be putting it out as far as what network or streaming service, but it doesn't say. But whoever it is, they're going to have my subscription so I can check out this stuff. Because I'm not the hugest heavy metal magazine fan, but whenever I do pick up a copy of it, just you sit there, you're involved for 30 plus minutes reading through all that stuff, and it's just gorgeous art and crazy stories. So to see that be put on TV as a 30-minute or an hour-long series or something like that, I'm all for that. That's a Twilight Zone-esque, kind of series that I'm here for. So
last time we had kind of an anthology animated was that Liquid Television?
Oh goodness, wow!
From MTV, was that the last one?
There has to be one that's been since then, but yeah, I do remember Liquid Television and really enjoy.
Maybe one of the adulty things off of the Cartoon Network show. What's it called?
Adult Swim.
Yeah, maybe they've had an anthology kind of thing. But I always Liquid Television, Eon Flux is always what I think of with Liquid Television.
Although they did the Max.
Yeah, I was going to say the Max was on there as well.
Darla? Darla was on. Was Darla on Liquid Television?
Darla or Daria?
Daria, excuse me. Yeah,
yeah, the girl. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think that was her own show.
Oh, okay.
There's something on Netflix. Can't recall the name. Okay.
Yeah.
And Charlie.
Oh well, then there's the robot. Oh god. I was just watching with my son last weekend. Something robot. Oh Lord, Charlie or Steven probably know what I'm talking about.
Robot Chicken.
No, not Robot Chicken.
Okay.
But it's like that. It's every episode was a new story or something.
Robot
like that.
Love.
Robot Love. Yeah.
Robots Live. Robot Love.
It's probably Robot Love. Yeah.
Oh,
but
okay.
That is really good.
Okay.
But yeah, so there are obviously a lot more announcements that came out at San Diego Comic-Con. These are kind of our 6 picks for right now. But like you said with the Marvel panel, you can almost just throw a dart and hit an announcement that somebody's going to enjoy. So good stuff there. Just excited to see what happens next. New comics, new TV, new movies. Just gimme. And I know what is it? Disney's upcoming thing was it D3 or D23 or whatever their next announcement conference.
Their own thing.
Yeah. So that's coming up here sometime soon. I forget what the date on it is. So we'll get even more news. So, and that's probably why we didn't get as much at San Diego, is because Disney was like, yeah, we're kind of wanting to hold a lot of this big stuff for us. If we can, that'd be great. Thanks. Our shareholders didn't like that.
Yeah, really. Yeah, we're beholden to our shareholders. Yeah. So.
Spicy City was on Showtime back in the day. I don't even know what that is.
I've never heard of Spicy City, Charlie.
I'll have to look that up.
Yep.
All right, so let's quickly run down our next 6 picks, which are for new releases coming out next week, August 3rd.
All right. First up for me is Vineyard from Aftershock Comics. Very, very roughly, it put me in the mode of Eat the Rich, in that there's a family that there's more going on with that family than perhaps is on the surface. The family owns a vineyard, but they are beholden to the god Dionysus, and he requires sacrifices, literally, every year in order to maintain his favor for the family. Well, because of different situations, the way that I read the teaser is that maybe the family doesn't have a whole lot to pick from to make sacrifices. They're
Ooh,
not necessarily a big family. So it's
that's gonna suck.
getting down to the nitty gritty of having to do something. A new person has risen through the family because of issues with older members to take the lead. Perhaps they have never had to confront any issues, any decisions of this nature. Her entire family's balance is in her hands because I believe it's a daughter of the uh, matriarch, patriarch of the family that has to take responsibility to appease Dionysus this given year. So that kind of plus a vineyard, a winery. That's not something that you see in comic books all that often, and so
No.
that initially grabbed my attention. And I'm like, well, even if it's some sedate, kind of just laid back day in the life story, well, no, it's much more than that.
Oh,
So
yeah, sounds like it. Yeah.
yeah, the combination was okay. I'll give it a try.
Cool. All right, my next or my first one I should say is Redman or Redman #2. This is from Behemoth Comics. Or they changed their name or got bought out by somebody here recently.
Grapes.
So oh, it's Mike Myers. He
Since
is
the
checking us out.
since the days of the great grape ape and Beagly Beagly, we
Yep.
don't get grapes very often.
So
All right, Doug, thanks, sir.
so when if y'all remember, I reviewed the first issue a while back. Sort of blown away by it, didn't really know what to expect, and it was gorgeous art, very little like dialogue or anything like that, just giant robots fighting kaiju, and really what more could you ask for? So I don't know if there's going to be any difference from that issue to this. If I just get kaiju fighting robots, I'll probably be okay. So I'm not going to cry too much on that one. But yeah, so I'm all looking forward to checking out Redman #2 this coming week.
So it appears that everybody was kaiju fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of which, my next pick is
great,
Godzilla Rivals
great
versus
segue. Great
Battra
segue.
One Shot. Thank you. Thank you. I had it written down, and no, I didn't, because you changed up books on me, so I
Yeah,
couldn't
I
have had
did.
it written down. From IDW, amazing. Oh, Redman had
Oh,
amazing
Redman.
art.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
Oh,
I believe you said that too when you
yeah,
reviewed it, Chris.
so good.
And I'm always a stand for Godzilla. I'm glad that that was another announcement that came out of San Diego, is that they have more in the pipeline to do with Godzilla, a younger audience targeted book.
Hmm.
But yeah, Godzilla. I grew up watching Godzilla on sci-fi channels when I was younger in Chicago, and he's always been one of my favorite. I've watched, honestly, I've watched about half of the movies. I've never sat down to just go through them for some reason.
Oh,
No explanation. I've watched about half of the original. I believe it was. Is it the Tohei era or the Showa era? I
I
think it
think
was
it's Tohei.
Tohei that was
I think
first.
so. Yeah.
And then I've watched the
Don't quote
most
me on that
recent.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember either without looking it up. The most recent 3 or 4, part of this King Kong Godzilla universe that they were building. I've seen those. A lot of those in between the first 6 or 8 and these most recent ones. I haven't seen a whole lot of those in between. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm always up for some Godzilla, but more of a King Kong guy. Well, that's all right, Mike. You're allowed to be wrong. I mean, there's no problems with that. That's cool.
I didn't see that. Love Godzilla, but I'm more a King Kong guy. I totally get it, man. Giant apes are where it is. So.
Yeah, okay. I like my zipper suited lizards. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. So, all right. So, are you done there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't want to interrupt you. All
No.
right, didn't want to like, oh, hey, let's pause for this, and then so next week is first issue of Dead Lucky, which is an Image title, but it's also part of the Massive Verse or Massive whatever they're calling it. Kyle Higgins's universe, which is including Radiant Black and Rogue Sun and Radiant Red,
all the Radiants,
all the Radiants,
all the colored Radiants.
Yeah, so this is just another character in that universe. They've been building slowly just a superhero universe within Image through these books and everything, and I am here for it. I've said for many years that Image didn't necessarily need it, but it was a really good place to do it. If a good sort of tight group of writers and artists got together and put their heads together and came up with something, Image would be a great place to do it because it's just not being done. They tried to do that early on in Image days, with the founding members, trying to cross over from time to time, which
too much ego there.
It just, well, maybe
they were young and egolicious. So yeah.
But so this one, I've seen some preview art and stuff like that. It looks good, so I'm looking forward to finally reading it when it comes out next week.
All right, for me, my final looking forward to pick next week is Doctor Who Origins #3 from Titan Comics. This series is giving us the origin of the Fugitive Doctor. The Fugitive Doctor is a doctor that was introduced in, I believe it was this most recent season of TV Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So I have bought since, I don't know, probably as long as I've been buying comic books, Doctor Who comics. That's one of the few, if I see it, I get it. I don't care who writes it, the art, I don't care the company, I don't care. If it has Doctor Who on it, I buy it. I decide after whether I should have or not. And, it's, so everything Doctor Who all the time. I don't talk about it that much. I was going to say, Doctor Who fan.
I haven't really heard you talk about it too much, even sort of offline. Yeah.
The comics have been, I've really enjoyed the comics. Most of the press is about the TV show, and I've kind of hunkered down because this most recent person and the most recent group of writers that got to do the TV show, I did not enjoy at all.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to, be called on the carpet for it and have to defend the fact that it's just something I don't, whatever, being called names and whatever else you got. So I just, I am kind of, I was thinking about this. Somebody brought it up, and I'm sorry, guys. I'll step off my soapbox here in a minute, but I'm going to step up here about Doctor Who. It's so unfortunate, the TV show back in the day when I was younger, you didn't know until the transformation who the next Doctor was going to be. Right. You didn't know anything about him. Now everybody runs out, and 6th season before she comes, the next one that they have, and it takes a lot of the excitement away.
Oh yeah.
Now all you have is, well, gee, I hope they write that guy, that girl, that puppy dog good stories.
Yeah.
The excitement of that change, although they'll have the change, and this will be a pretty major one from a Caucasian female to a black male. That'll be a pretty significant physical change, which again we haven't had all of that often from the Doctor before Jodie to her, male to female. But it's just taken a little bit of the ooh out of it. Forced me to watch it on PBS as a kid, and because of that, I could never get. Oh, because you were forced.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
My dad watched it with me, so he didn't force me to watch it. I wanted to watch it, so I've watched the Doctor since the third Doctor. So
my kids, when they were little, was right at the beginning of the Matt Smith era.
Oh, so that's a good era.
So I had watched David Tennant, half of David Tennant. I didn't pay too much attention to Doctor Who after so long. But anyway, beside the point. So we would, when the new episode would come out on, I guess it was Sunday night, we would get my son's room, watch it on his TV. My daughter and son and I would sit there, on the bed or whatever and watch it. Now Camden is still into Doctor Who and everything. We still talk about it. My daughter, not so much, but she still remembers the Weeping Angels and is still terrified of them.
one of the best Doctor Who villains.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, they keep coming back to the Cybermen and the Daleks, but the Weeping Angels were they were badass.
Yep. I watched it by myself and I could find it.
I
mean, that was how I did it too when I was growing up. Like my dad was a big Star Trek fan, but that was it. That was the only thing that he and I ever watched sci-fi wise together. So, all right. So my last book for next week is, this is a crazy one, folks. It's Golden Rage number 1 of 5. It's from Image. And let's see. So what did you have here, Steven? Steven says, I only watched Doctor Who from Christopher Eccleston. Tenet was my favorite. I haven't watched any of the Jodie Whittaker who yet. Yeah, I haven't watched a whole lot of her stuff. I've watched pretty much everybody since or prior to that. Capaldi, I still rank him pretty high. I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about him. But there was just something about his like later seasons. Like the first season was kind of meh, but his later seasons were really, really good. Or at least I thought they were. So, all right. So Golden Rage is about. Hold on. Let me scroll down to this.
There you go, Stephen. If you did or. Okay, you do have HBO Max. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now you guys are saying it's on HBO Max. Is that's all the new seasons, right? That's not all the previous series.
You can go back and I know you can go back and watch Eccleston forward.
Yeah, that's the seasons. They don't have when they used to call them series. There's an online place that you can go and subscribe and have access to all of them. All of those, not all of the. I don't think they did all of the original, the new seasons, but they did the 8 or 9 previous that were all divided into series.
Yeah. So
okay, sorry, Chris.
Golden Rage is a miniseries in a world where older women who have been deemed useless to society are abandoned on an island. Golden Rage documents their golden years. I wanted to read this because just the solicitations alone made me go, "Oh, this is gonna be nuts." Documents their golden years of making friends, baking desserts, and fighting to the death.
Okay, well there we go.
So what? This is the tagline: a brand new 5-issue miniseries where Battle Royale meets the Golden Girls.
So I was going to say, it sounds like a combination Themyscira and Sparta, kind of situation going there. Okay,
it sounds ridiculous, and I am here for that. So, let's see the ones that they didn't throw away. Oh, as far as the Doctor Who stuff, yeah, for sure.
Most of those just occurred with the second dude that looked like one of the Three Stooges.
Yes.
The latter couple serials of the first guy, and I don't think they missed any from the third Doctor on, but that second bowl cut dude, there are far more missing than they have that you can watch of his right now.
Yeah. Doug saying, I think Golden Range looks real. It is. It looks real great. So we'll see. Once that book comes out next week, I will definitely be checking it out, and I will report back. Whether I do a review on it, I don't know. We'll see how good it is, but at least I'll mention it next episode. So, all right. So let's dive into some reviews.
All right.
So it's that time of the night.
My first one here is Lady Death, Necrotic Genesis. Just what a foul sounding book.
I had to read that a number of times because I kept reading necrotic as neurotic.
Neurotic.
And I was like, this is going to be an interesting review.
Necrotic Genesis. Yeah. Now this is actually after about 8 or 10 months of doing Kickstarter things, these Lady Death from Coffin Comics started coming out through previews.
Oh, okay.
But there for a little while, you could only get them through Kickstarter. This is the 15th book Brian Pulido has put out of Lady Death since he started doing that. Each one is individually named, just like this. This says Necrotic Genesis 1. The book before it was Sacrificial something or other 1. The next one in line will be something 1. So I
And
mean,
these are big books too.
yeah, they're like 50 to 60 pages,
Yeah.
square bound, with all the added accessories that you can imagine. Brian Pulido probably is the biggest at it when he gets certain funding goals. Condoms and door stops and door hangers and pens and pencils and key fobs and cards and stickers. Yeah, Brian Pulido just.
So Ed at his house, if you go to his desk, he's got a drawer that's just
No, I
just
have
labeled Lady Death.
It's a tub.
It's a tub.
I have a tub of
with a lockbox on it.
No, it's got clicks on the handles, but all of the added value things that all the Kickstarter people,
Yeah.
I just throw them all in that thing together. So
Nice.
if I ever need a like say a bookmark, I'll just go in there and shuffle through until I get one that looks cool. I'm like, oh, okay, here's a new bookmark, yeah. Which will be a while because I have plenty out laying around already. But all right, their little blurb here: in the aftermath of her bone-shattering battle with Hellwitch, which is another property that he's doing through Kickstarter that has four books out. The 5th one is getting ready to go up on Kickstarter here in the next couple months. And he's got a 3rd property just to be complete about it, La Muerta, which is a very
Charlie reminded me of something I completely
did you get
forgot.
condoms from Jerry Hahn, Chris? Okay.
Yes.
Or Jeremy Hahn? Okay.
Yeah.
Were they themed or were they just generic?
I forgot what they were for. I forgot what comic book they were for. They
were part of something.
Maybe like it wasn't the Realm. No, it was for the Beauty.
Oh, okay.
His series for Image.
So he actually put out beauty condoms.
Yeah,
that's kind of funny.
And the really funny part about that, not to take away from your review, but the really funny part about that is Charlie said beauty. I was a big fan, or I am a big fan of the Realm. I didn't read Beauty, and so but Beauty was the one that was really selling for him. And so so we ended up getting condoms. It was pretty
cool
funny.
Beans.
Hyper Potato Pluto is the king of Kickstarter, no doubt. And I haven't backed any of this stuff, but you've backed most of it.
Yeah, he makes mint. He makes mint off of these. He's got his machine running. Like I said, he's got 3 properties, and he does about 1 a quarter, and he alternates 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, going through them.
That's impressive.
Lady Death and Hellwitch are very closely related. La Muerta, kind of tangentially. She is earthbound, street level, whereas Lady Death and Hellwitch are both infernal realm citizens tampering on Earth and whatever. So they may cross over with La Muerta, but she is actually reminds me of Thunder Rosa on AEW. Her face paint, because she doesn't wear a costume. She just uses the what is it called? Sugar skull? Is that what they call that? Black and white makeup that they'll put on. I think that's called sugar skull. But in the aftermath of her bone-shattering battle with Hellwitch, a new era unfolds with foe both new and old descending on the Diva of Death. And to Lady Death's great surprise, White Reapers, bearing her unique DNA, manifest across the globe. Will she welcome them or reject them outright? The answers lie on the pages ahead. This is written by Brian Pulido and Mike McLean. This particular issue was illustrated by Diego Bernard, lettered by Marshall Dillon. We know that name. Colored by Cici de la Cruz, with a buttload of variant covers, which is something else that he does to really push his Kickstarters. Elevated levels of support will have more and more and more unique covers until you get to a 1 of 10, 1 of 5. I've even seen a couple campaigns that had a 1 of 1 cover for way money, but it was there. So
that's the thing. I've got on his mailing list somehow. Maybe I was gonna back one, and I forget how I got on it. But yeah, so every time he releases one, I get a kick out of just going through just all. I mean, as a variant cover fan, going through just not just the covers that he has, the volume of it, but just the artist, just the quality of the artist that he has on there. I mean, he's got some good folks who I've never heard of that do really
beautiful art.
Yeah. And it, Lady Death may not be your thing or anything, but at the same time, to see what an artist can do is a completely different thing. And they do some nice work. So him and Miss Kitty.
I guess that's the well-oiled Lady Death boobies.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that one.
Miss Kitty had well-oiled Lady Death boobies.
I guess so.
So, all right. This is and it's been this way for a little while. All right, Stephen. Catch you later, man.
All right, we'll see you, Stephen.
I'll be in touch over the weekend, and you and I will be able to sit down and talk this coming Monday, hopefully.
Hold on, are you cheating on me? Are you doing podcasts with other people?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
My wife.
Yes, true.
Stephen, my third podcasting wife.
There's so many.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up. And I got an invite to co-host a one-off show here earlier this morning, actually. So
podcast machine.
Yeah. Woo woo. Yeah. Okay. Where was I? Yes. Okay. Lady Death. She actually has a human mother and father. She has human siblings. At least, let's see, off the top of my head, one brother and one sister, I believe. Somebody out there in the chat, if I'm wrong, catch me up on that. Adulterous podcast revealed. Yes, in this episode. Yeah. So, she has a name, although I think she's had a name in the past. Her first name is Hope, which is funny because she's Lady Death, but her parents named her Hope. Yeah, there's a whole story there.
Yep. I'm sure there is.
Yes, yeah. So Earth is in the middle, as happens a lot when you are dealing with infernal creatures. Podcast for jobs. And so there is a celestial aspect and an infernal aspect, and they are battling over an earthly aspect. So Lady Death, though, she has infernal origins, infernal being hell, celestial I use for heavenly, if that's what you want to call it, any religious beliefs aside. She is infernal, but she's on Earth right now because her father is maneuvering to ally himself with other infernal aspects to take over the Earth. And Lady Death is digging that and kind of surprised him because he figured, well,
he's like, wait a second.
Yeah, being an infernal being and being her dad, she would be kind of, on my, no, she's not even remotely. And her mother actually is on her side, but her mother is just she is the frail woman to show that Lady Death, at least genetically, has that aspect. Although in her character, she doesn't have any frailty aspect at all, really. She recently beat Hell Witch off from trying to get involved, even though she wasn't officially a part of working with Lady Death's dad. She wanted to mess with Earth because by that she could get one over on Lady Death. She's got a really major, as the kids say, mad on for defeating Lady Death. Lady Death is whatever. She's not as, no pun intended, or perhaps intended, hell-bent on defeating Hell Witch. But if Hell Witch messes with her, she will. And that's what happened in it was a 2-part story, the most recent Hell Witch issue and the Lady Death issue before this. And it was a 1-2 part. So now Lady Death has beaten off the one person, defeated the one person, bad choice of words there, and now is focusing on her dad, who has infernal tinged tech that he uses and celestial tinged tech, and now he is attempting to mix the two genetically. He has clones of Lady Death, which is infernal, and he has blood of various creatures that he's mixing with these infernal clones and seeing what happens, trying to make a supreme being of some sort. On January 5th of 2022. Wow, it's a good thing you got that email. That way you know, Charlie. And so this is kind of a cool down story, which you will have, typically in long runs of narrative. We just had a major battle that raged pretty much for 2 issues, although not of her book, but involving her character and involving this continuing story. And so now this is the cool down chapter, the character development chapter, where we touch base with various of the characters that have survived, and we see what they're up to. We check their allegiance. A couple of them have some allegiance tests so that we can see. And so it's just it's more sedate as Lady Death gets, really. And with the name Lady Death, you can imagine from what it has been the previous 2, 3, 4 issues. Nice build up. The next issue of Hell Witch really isn't supposed to have anything to do with this part of Lady Death's story. Hell Witch is licking her wounds and is supposed to be trying to get Lady Death essentially kicked out of any of the infernal realms, so that at the very least, if something happens on Earth, she doesn't have infernal to retreat to. She won't be allowed to, by whatever means that Hell Witch can do. And then on Earth, we see that her father, with his Halo Corporation, there it is, trying to remember. And no, there is no Master Chief that I've seen in this. So
I was thinking Wildcats, but
it's a different
Halo.
So. Oh, was Halo the Wildcats Corporation?
That's where Imp,
Lord Imp. Okay. Yeah. So a little bit of battling, but it's Lady Death against earthly forces with the assistance of both infernal and celestial aspects, but not anything full blown, like she's not being attacked by a bunch of angels or by a bunch of demons or anything like that. Gathering her allies, they're all, gathered around the fire, taking sup one last time and just kind of chilling before whatever happens next, which probably will be an issue, probably the beginning of next year will be the next Lady Death, because he has a Hell Witch and a La Muerta that he has to get in by the end of this year. They're good against evil. Celestial, I guess.
Yeah.
So 15 issues essentially in over, I don't know, over.
Oh, it's been a while, yeah.
2008 or 2009, something like that. Yeah, it's been a little while that he's been doing this. So it's very different from, like, earlier this year I read Evil Ernie from Chaos Comics, which was Lady Death's original origin and first appearance and everything like that. Completely different. Back in the day, I read Medieval Lady Death, which was cross-gen, I believe.
Yeah.
And very different from that aspect.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, I haven't read any of who did Dynamite do Lady Death for a little while?
No, Dynamite's
Avatar.
never done. They've done, Avatar has. Yeah, Avatar Dynamite's done like all the other Chaos characters.
Okay, yeah. So the point I was getting to is that those times when Brian Pulido wasn't able to do Brian Pulido, It was a little bit different Lady Death than what it is now.
Yeah.
He has complete and total control, can do whatever he wants, and it's a very different Lady Death. Now that original for Chaos Comics, that was him also on his
Yeah.
own doing whatever he wanted
Yeah.
to. But it, when it came out, he was Lady Death was a product of the '90s, and it was very long lived as far as frequency of publication thing.
Oh yeah.
So she just
Yeah.
got to having a different feel there by the time that it came when Chaos closed, and he
Yep.
quasi sold out, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
Now he's got all his ducks back in a row. Unfortunately, he doesn't have all of his properties, but he does have Lady Death. This Hell Witch and La Muerta are new properties, I believe,
Yeah.
for his Coffin Comics imprint.
Okay. Yeah.
Just this is, to me, the Lady Death. This is always how I thought she should be, and it's not. There's quite a bit of violence, but not gratuitous. Actually, the sex is more gratuitous than the violence is. And there is a little bit in every issue. There's a time and a place that he fits in a sex scene, not hardcore, more softcore, but every issue and it's like, really, Brian? I mean, you almost had it, man. You were 10 pages from finishing, and can I say you slipped it in there? Yeah. So I was like, wow, okay, yeah.
Just almost there. Almost.
Yep. Always
So.
like the side characters other than Purgatory comes to mind.
Oh yeah.
That's the only one that comes to mind. There's a big tank dude that showed up a lot too, but I can't remember his name. So, okay, that's all I got this time.
Yeah, it's always been one of these things. Lady Death has been a character that I know of and have never read a whole lot of. Even CrossGen, as big of a CrossGen reader as I was back then, I don't even think I read that series. I flipped through some stuff, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But with all of this Kickstarter stuff, I mean, there have been many times where I've thought, oh, I'll just get the digital, backing or whatever, and catch up, and I cannot pull the trigger. But maybe one of these days, because it looks good. I mean, and I know he's building this massive story, so it's good to hear that it's doing well. So
when you read it, you would get the impression, if you had been reading back then, that this relates to the '90s, right? But it's not, as I don't know. It just feels different. It's got today's sensibilities, with, of course, one of the all-time leading bad girls from the early '90s. So he is doing a really good job, I think, of Cremator. Yeah, there we go. Of mixing the two. Jade. Yeah, that's another one. So it's been fun to read. Mentioning the side characters, Hell Witch and La Muerta, both have done. Hell Witch, she's always kind of on the fence as to whether I want to get the next one or not. La Muerta, though, is very interesting, being street level, being Southern Texas, Tijuana-ish, as far as where she's based. I think she's based in El Paso, actually, and doesn't really have any major superpowers. She's got a couple she can do that are kind of mystically based, but not, like Lady Death. She can't go pounding away with swords and walk away and stuff like that. So good stuff. I would recommend, if that is that horror-y kind of element that you like in your books, this whole Coffin Comics universe that Brian Pulido has been putting together, I would recommend to give it a look to see if there's enough of that horror element to grab you.
Yeah, cool. All right, so my first book of the night is Something is Killing the Children, number 25. This is Boom Studios. This is we're taking a break after this issue, I think. I haven't seen issue 26 solicited. So there's that. I did read over the weekend that there was the panel. Tynion had his own panel and everything. He made some sort of statement that Something is Killing could go 75 issues. If that actually is what's going to happen. I'm pretty stoked about that because I really enjoy this series a lot. So 25 issues. This is a 40-page book. So you get a lot going on, but it reads and is paced much like every other issue. And so you don't feel like, oh my God, I'm really, slogging through this or anything like that. It reads at a good pace, and it feels like just every other issue, which is great. Um, we're kind of at a point. I do feel like this arc there's a lot going on, but I also feel like it's sort of treading a little water from time to time where it's one of those things, being sort of a reader and not knowing sort of everything that is being put into this particular arc. You don't know where, like, I could say, okay, it feels like it's a little bit of fluff here and there, but where do you cut it and where does it make sense and that kind of thing? I couldn't tell you. I mean, I've read through it and I'm like, that felt a little long, but I can't tell you what I could have done without, so it's one of those things. So either way, um, so, this issue, we get Gabby, who is the young girl who, at the beginning of this arc, had seen her family killed. I think it was her mom and grandmother and maybe one other person. But anyway, saw them get killed by someone that she thought was a man. Come to find out that this is a shape-shifting monster. This issue, we do get a full-blown look at what this creature looks like, and it's got some issues. It's got a lot of teeth, I'll tell you that. So last issue, Erica had been picked up by the police, and in doing so, she dropped her totem, which is the purple octopus stuffed animal she always carries with her. If you know anything about the series, that particular stuffed animal is the home of the monster that killed her family, and so she controls that thing. Is that right? Or is it just another monster that she was training? Okay, yeah. Okay.
No,
So
I believe
it's
I
it's the
believe
one
it's
that,
always the monster that it's like the last monster that got you involved with the house.
yeah. So she dropped that at the hotel, and so Gabby now has it because she went back to the scene of the crime.
Mhm.
And so Gabby's got it, and it is talking to Gabby. And so that can't end well. So it's telling her, more about, that it was really a monster that killed her family and that she's lucky to have gotten away, but she want revenge against this monster. He can help her find it because he knows where it knows where this monster is right now, and all the worst things that you would think this thing could tell her, it's telling her. And she's like, either I'm having a psychotic break or this is really happening. We'll just go with it's really happening and I'm having a psychotic break, and we'll just see where it goes. So she's listening to the totem. The totem's telling her where to go, and while all this is going on, Erica is back at the bar talking to Gabby's aunt, saying, "You need to tell me where Gabby is. We need to go find her." And then Gabby calls her on the phone, called her aunt, tells her, "Hey, look, I'm getting ready to go do something stupid. I figured I could possibly die. May as well tell somebody." And that was sort of how flippant she was about the whole thing. Gabby has been that sort of tone throughout the entire arc.
Mhm.
And it's sort of trying to figure out as a reader why. How can how can you just be that? It's not even carefree. It's literally you've checked out. And is it because her family was murdered in front of her? Maybe, but it sounds like she was always like this. So who knows? So I'm sure we'll get more of that down the road, because I think Gabby's going to be one of these characters that sticks around a while. So so Erica and Gabby's aunt, I forget her name, but they go realize there's one of three places that Gabby could be at, and they're just sort of hoping they get to the right one. They end up getting to the right one, luckily. They don't tell you how many they actually went to before they got to this one, but the totem had taken Gabby and they found the monster. who is killing some teenagers. And so Gabby freaks out because she's like, oh my God, this is real. And in the meantime, Erica jumps in, fights off the monster, trying to get everybody to run. And this is the first time that we see, that I can remember, that adults and children esque, because we don't really consider Erica a child, but she is younger and has been trained in this. Adults can't see these monsters, like not at all.
Mhm.
So in the midst of this fight, or at least untrained adults, in the midst of this fight, all Gabby's aunt sees is Erica being thrown about.
Mhm.
And so if you watched Moon Knight, there was a scene where Moon Knight was fighting um, some creature, one of the invisible creatures, and that's all these people were seeing. So this is what she's, and then all of a sudden her arm, Erica's arm gets ripped open and all this. So anyway, it's just this very traumatic scene and everything. But she ends up injuring the monster. The monster gets away. They have to take Erica to the hospital to get her dealt with. And in the midst of all of this, we do get sort of the subplot with Cutter, who is the red. The member of the Red House, or Scarlet House, who has been sent to kill Erica. And so Cutter's interesting. And so she is not just coming after Erica. What she's doing is she's going to kill everything and everybody that Erica loves or knows or who is involved in helping her outside of the house. And so the only person that we're aware of is Gary at this point. And Gary's, the trainer from the house, from her origin. And so he's been helping her locate monsters and has been helping her, particularly with this case. And so Cutter is at the end of this issue, Cutter is at Gary's house, has him tied up, has him beaten up, and they're talking to Erica on the phone. And she's like, I'm coming after you, but I just want you, to know that I'm coming after everybody, kind of thing. So it's not that she's just finding and she's finding pleasure in doing this, but not just coming after Erica, but literally dismantling her entire life. So that's kind of how we're left with the issue, and that's sort of the cliffhanger of the issue. So again, we've got a break. I don't know how many months we're going to have of this break. It's at least through October, so we'll have to pick it up from there. But it's a good, if you would say, if this was a television series, a good mid-season cliffhanger
break, yeah.
So again, just this series continues to be good. It wins Eisner Awards. Tynion wins Eisner Awards for good reason. Excellent writer, excellent series, and just continues to be one of those books that I will continue to read to the very, very end.
All 75 issues.
However many issues. If it's 30 issues or it's 75 or 100 or more, I'll keep reading it because as long as this creative team is together, I don't think you can do any damage to this book. Because I do think that Tynion is a writer who knows I've been here too long, or I am coming up on that point, and then is ready to walk away. So good series. Looking forward to wherever we go from here. But I do know, having read the series long enough, as I'm sure you do as well, Erica's not going to take this lying down.
No.
And so when Cutter finally arrives, it's going to be interesting. So.
The aunt's name is Ricky, Riqui.
Oh, okay. Thank you,
Ricky. Ricky, don't lose that number.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. She was on the phone. And yeah. Okay.
Yep. All right. So what you get?
All right. Yeah. After explaining what I was attempting to do, another Kickstarter, Blood and Fire, issue number 1, which started on Kickstarter, but the digital copy that I'm looking at indicates August 2022, and Red 5 Comics as when it will be available. So
okay.
This this coming, yeah, it's not quite August yet. It should be available. 16th century Japan. The country is in chaos. After centuries of rule, the central government has lost control, plunging the country into a bloody civil war. Anarchy reigns as warlords seek power and territory. Nothing superhero-y, nothing magic-y, nothing other than real on-the-ground samurai story is what this is. And it comes to us from, well, from somebody, but here we go. My digital comic froze. Let me go back.
This comes from somebody.
Scripted by Aaron Wroblewski, art by Ezekiel Rubio Lancho. It's black and white. It is a very airy art style. There is definition. There is more definition in the important things on a panel and less definition on the unimportant or less important things. There is a little bit of red here and there, as you would expect in a samurai book. There's got to be some red. The story is a very, very straightforward story. The king has died. The shogun has died, and Japan is fractured into family-based territories. The father of this particular family, the Ishida clan, died a while back, and so his oldest son moved up to take control of the family. Now that oldest son is sick and in bed and is on the verge of dying, so the other sons, the brothers of the sitting ruler, are called in because, of course, there's going to be a pronouncement as to who is next. There are two brothers, which kind of makes it easy. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, I bet the two brothers are going to fight. I bet one brother's going to turn on the other brother, but it's still interesting because I very much enjoy this setting and this time period. So they go, by the time the middle and youngest brother, essentially is what they are, get there, the older brother has died. So you immediately see, now I wish that I could give you names, but Ishida is the only name that was given out in the entire, well, no, the one brother that we're not following, he was named. But the brother that we're following and the gentleman that is in charge of his armies, that is our point of view character. The middle Ishida brothers, Domo, if that's what you want to call him. So the middle brother and younger brother get there. You immediately can tell that the younger brother doesn't like the now older brother because the oldest has died. So it's young and old. You see the machinations very quickly. You see what's happening. One brother turns on the other. We see this through the eyes of the major domo of that particular brother. The story starts at a point, and then after a couple pages, we go back in time so that they can show us what has led to that opening point of the story. It kind of feels like at the end of this first issue, I believe there's 3 that there's going to be. At the end of this first issue, you kind of feel, oh, well, this is where we were at the beginning of the story. But if you paid attention, it's not, because the beginning of the story references some other things that have to happen that don't happen in this issue. So you can tell, oh, well, this must be a very similar situation, but it's not that final situation that we saw to begin with. At the end, the major domo of the older brother is surrounded by troops of the younger brother who has staged a coup. he's going through. I'll just tell you, he's going through and killing everybody associated with the older brother, so that
Well, of course.
he can take over.
Yeah.
The major domo is not killed in the ambush. They chase him down, and at the end of the issue, they surround him, and that's where this issue, it just stops right there. Which obviously is an excellent point, because you certainly want to read the next issue to see how does he get out of that, because that's kind of a nasty situation, all of it very straightforward. All of it, I'm sure somewhere you have read or watched before. I did not see anything new, but for me, feudal Japan, I have a soft spot for that era. Jingeki is what that's called, with the samurai and the that time period before, after the establishment of samurai, but before the introduction of gunpowder. Those are the major parts of the Japanese history that kind of bracket the quote unquote, a lot of people will call it the Edo period, or actually you'll see it referenced that way. There's a couple other designations before and a couple after Edo, but that's you'll see it called the Edo period. Samurais instead of gunfighters, which we here in America had. So solid story, solid art, black and white. I very much like black and white art. I'm not someone that poo-poos it because all the new hotness is in color. There are certain stories that lend themselves to color. My personal feelings are that there are a lot more stories that lend themselves to black and white, and so they do just fine there. So take something like Avengers Endgame in the movies, that would not work black and white. There's just too much going on to not to just be monocolored, or bicolored, I guess, if you want to. But samurai stories, I cut my teeth reading stuff like this in black and white, so I very much enjoy black and white samurai stories. I've got a couple, and I've talked about a couple that are in color, but samurai and black and white just go hand in hand for me. Excellent. Somehow I missed the second and third issues, both of this one, so I'm going to have to go back and see if I can get those. This is the only issue that I have had on my pile. Went to sort through it to get the others, and I'm like, oh, well.
You're like, wait a second.
Yeah, there are no others. So good stuff, though.
I have felt that before. But like, gosh darn it, I knew I had these.
Yeah, really.
All right, so my next book is actually a book that you had mentioned last episode as far as a book you were looking forward to checking out.
Yes.
Vampirella Year 1, Number 1. I got the only non-swimsuit edition cover. If you know anything about Vampirella. So, because I was like, this cover I felt like was more appropriate to the story that's actually in the book. Other than the pinup covers and everything. I try and get, if I have a choice in a variant cover, I'm gonna try and get something that I feel is at least after I flip through the book, okay, this sort of makes a little more sense. So
right.
So Vampirella Year 1, it is a continuating story being built by Christopher Priest, who's been on Vampirella for a number of years at this point. He is building up sort of his opus, his grand opus for Vampirella, and sort of, I guess you could say, not exactly deconstructing her, but really establishing who she is in the modern era. And it is very reminiscent of a lot of the older stuff that, from like the 70s that we got from about Vampirella. So it's sort of harking back to those days, but then sort of fine tuning some of those stories. So this particular issue, or this series, I guess, is talking about her origins. Not necessarily from birth, but it is picking up when she is a child, talking about, her mother, the Black Queen, who, was imbued with with powers to help free her people from tyranny only to become the tyrant herself. And so it's sort of, and in doing so, has Draculin has kind of become a wasteland. She has created sort of a habitat for the elite underneath the surface of the planet, and she is not a popular person. In doing so, has caused Vampirella, who at this point is only referred to as Snoop. I don't know why they haven't really explained that quite yet. Maybe I missed something in previous stories, but at least in this issue, they're only calling her Snoop, and that's all they do. She's not being called Vampirella in this. And she mentions to a number of people that's her name when she comes across them, and they're just like, "Why is that your name?" And she's like, "That's the name I'm giving you." So that's, you know, it's like, oh, okay. So this issue, there's a coup, and some of the elite have decided that the Black Queen is no longer does not have their best interests at heart. She's only in it for herself, and she is, and so they attempt to kill her, and in doing so, some of her loyalists obviously go and find Snoop, go find Vampirella, and basically get her out of the castle, get her out of their home, and sort of hide her amongst the masses. And so, in doing so, she has to be alone. And so, this is the first time, she's ever actually been on her own. She's probably 10, 11, 12, probably around 10 at this point. So months go by or weeks go by or something like that. She's on her own. She's scrounging for food. She's basically, not 100% sure of herself at this point, but she knows what she needs to do to steal food and to survive. So she's kind of getting that, getting those skills. By the end of the issue, she is, she, I say befriends is it's kind of a stretch. She sort of reluctantly gets picked up by a couple of younger kids who are trying to help her. Sort of, they don't know who she is, but their parents do, and their parents are actually loyalists to her mother. And so their feeling is, oh, if anybody finds out that she's in our home, they'll, the price on her head is, infinite. And we need to, stay loyal to the queen. But, you're sort of led to believe that the queen is dead at this point, because that was where she was being drug off to. I mean, they were like, drag her out to the street, slit her throat, in front of everybody. And so you're kind of left with oh, she's dead. Well, she's not dead somehow. Because she reappears at the end of this issue and sort of infiltrates the family in a interesting way. So she is there to watch over her daughter, apparently. So that's kind of how the issue ends. It's as far as the first issue goes, I mean, we're definitely getting to sort of the origins of stuff. Priest does a pretty good job of sort of setting sort of the atmosphere of what's going on pretty quickly. There's not a lot of sort of time and pages and panels sort of spent recapping any kind of story or anything. It's as she's moving along, or as the story is kind of moving along, he's explaining this in a very sort of Chris Claremont kind of way. With lots of panels and stuff like that, but not overwhelming, not a Todd McFarlane kind of narration. I enjoyed it. I've picked up a lot of the first Christopher Priest Vampirella run, read most of that, did not pick up, I think it was Sacred Six was the series in between. I did not pick that up. Not for any reason other than I just didn't pick it up. And so when you mentioned this last week, I was like, that'd probably be a good series to pick up, at least the first issue to try it. Right. It is good, and I'm looking forward to picking up the next issue. So
cool beans. Let me just say that 70 covers is a bit too much.
it is ridiculous, and luckily my comic shop probably only had about 4.
That's just, and I can say that because they showed them all in the back of the issue,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
counted them.
It's
70 covers. 70.
there. Just to give
Wow.
you some so I won't. It's pointless to show you because they're so small, but it is 4 pages or 2 pages front and back, and they have 3 rows of 6. It is ridiculous, but Dynamite loves their variants.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but in saying that too, they obviously do have a good creative team, writer artist team,
Well, yeah.
to put together a pretty good book. So.
They don't go in the hole by doing it, or else they wouldn't. So
Right.
yeah, it does what it's intended to do. I'm just like,
It's a
should you
little
really
overwhelming.
intend to do that? I mean,
I'll try to save some money somewhere.
and I always fall back to, back in the early 90s, they would have
Right.
really busted your chops for that. But
Yes.
now people just gobble it up, and I'm like,
Yep.
what's the difference? It's the same thing.
Now, I will tell you
So,
this, and I forget what okay, so with Dynamite, when I was picking up nearly everything they were doing, especially the Red Sonja Vampirella
mhm.
stuff, I would always pick, like, they usually would have a artist doing all the covers. So you would have you know artist A doing at least all the A covers and artist B doing the B covers and that kind of thing. So I would always pick like an artist, like, forget what they draw or what they put on the cover. I'm just going to pick up all their covers,
Mhm.
and so it's mentally it's like, okay, it's all uniform, that kind of thing. I like the same
Yeah,
cover
yeah.
art and everything. So I happened to be looking through FOC, even though we didn't have it for the show. And there's I forget what issue of Vampirella it is. I don't think it's the year 1 stuff. It might be a different one. But anyway, there was I immediately drew myself to a cover to an artist, and I forget who it was off the top of my head now. Somebody who I hadn't seen their work in quite a while, but they were doing all of the these Vampirella covers, and they're all his art's a very sort of unique style and everything. I wish I could remember who it was now, because like when I saw the name, I was like, really? Oh, uh, uh, Ben Candwell, I forget what his name is now. Anyway, but he's got a unique style. Anyway, it drew my eye to it, and I was like, well, you know what? If I was going to buy all the issues of the series,
Get all his
this is the cover, because they were all great, the ones that I did say. So, but that's kind of how I wade through Dynamite's litany of variant covers. Is
Well,
I just hone in on one artist and just
yeah,
blur the
most of
rest
the
out.
covers, though, honestly, unless you make it a point, you'll never see. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Yep.
Oh,
All right.
right.
So what you got next?
All right, my last book is the Shaolin Nun, issue number 1. We're told that Mai Yin is a warrior nun from a secret Shaolin order, an order dedicated to training women to fight back against against the world of men. Now, she's come to Los Angeles to continue their mission. She is the Shaolin Nun. Now, it sounds kind of campy, but it's not.
I feel like this is a TV
Yeah,
show
really.
on USA Up All Night
Right.
or something.
We're going to see her pick up a hot cauldron and burn tattoos into
Yes.
her arms and
Yeah.
stumble into the snow. And yeah, no, it's not. Similar. She is. It's contemporary. She is living here. Our point of view character's name is Heather. She is a young lady living on her own. We see her as she is working and closing up shop for the evening at Mugful Coffee. One word, Mugful
Nice.
Coffee. And she runs afoul of some slick-haired, leather jacket-wearing motorcycle dudes.
Street toughs.
Yeah, I don't know if that's appropriate anymore to single people like that out as being the bad guys. You know, is that kind of why are all the motorcycle riding dudes bad guys? That doesn't seem. But anyways, and she is rescued by the Shaolin Nun. Now, I don't know if I guess she goes out patrolling at night to try to right wrongs, particularly when they involve women, because that is what she's looking for. She's looking for women who are being subjugated by the patriarchy, and she's trying to break the bondage of the patriarchy. And I say that tongue in cheek, but I don't. So um, she has her own dojo, and she has the nun, a large building, almost like a warehousey kind of building, because what she's wanting to do is she's wanting to take in females, train them, and then send them out to right the wrongs of the patriarchy, at least in the U.S., if not the world. That was the way she was raised. She was adopted. Her adopted parents were killed. She was taken in by this order, trained, brought up with the understanding that there would come a point in time where she would leave to spread the message. And that is what she is doing now. She encounters Heather. Again, she is our point of view character. Heather, all of this stuff, the Shaolin Nun, her name is Mai Yin. She introduces it to her very gently and very, if you want to do any of these things, I can help you. If not, I do what I do as a good service as far as protecting her and giving her a place to stay for the night and giving her food to eat, and almost like a woman's shelter, which is what she will do if the women that she takes in, if that's all they want to do. But if they want to learn how to protect themselves and even how to fight for themselves, she will train them to do that as well. Heather doesn't know about any of the latter, just the four that has happened. She was rescued, place to stay, food. Well, she gets up the next morning after her pseudo attack. They really didn't do anything to her other than aggro towards her because the nun jumped in time. But she is also a college student, so she has those responsibilities that she has to go and do. Plus, she's scheduled to work later that next day, and so she, thank you, thank you. Oh, I don't know about all the rest of this stuff, but I do know that I have to go. I don't have time to do it right now, and so she takes off. That next day, I think it's the next day, at work, she rescues a girl who doesn't speak English. I believe what she speaks is Chinese, but I don't know that for sure. Who is escaping from probably sex traffickers, if I had to guess as to what they are. So this whole situation must occur close to a shipping point or a major highway or waterway or something like that, but we don't necessarily see all of that. Maybe it'll play a part later in the story. Heather rescues the girl, and at the end of the story, she and the girl go to Mai Yin as predominantly because that's the only place Heather can think of that can help the girl, particularly since the girl doesn't speak any English, and Mai Yin gave her the briefest of background stories. So if it were me, I would assume that chances are fair that if this little girl is speaking a language I don't understand, my savior person who grew up in another country may well be able to speak that language or something similar, because I certainly know that I can't. And so she takes the girl to Mai Yin, and the story finishes when Mai Yin opens the door and there's Heather, and this, again, I believe it's Chinese, but I'm not sure, little girl. And so there we go. That's just pretty straightforward. I don't know if there probably is more to the story that I'm just too white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male to catch. I'll own up to that being potentially the case, but I just another Far Eastern based story, Shaolin martial arts, another set of things that just kind of are in my interest zone for things that I read.
Yeah, it's definitely in your wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Another Kickstarter. This one, I don't believe this had a publisher's name attached to it at all, other than just Kickstarter. Yeah,
Okay.
that's all. So it's a Kickstarter exclusive, and at this point, they apparently don't have any contracts with anybody to publish it yet. If they're going,
Was it just a single issue, or is it?
It's a single issue so far. I went to look on the website, and they also, I believe, have come out with a second and third, but those Kickstarters are closed, and they don't have physical or digital for those available on their website. So I'm like,
Oh
well,
wow,
how am I supposed to get the books if I missed a Kickstarter?
yeah,
And I guess the answer is you're not. So
that sucks.
yeah, I'll keep looking to see if eventually something shows up. But yeah, I mean, usually once the Kickstarter closes and they send the stuff to the people, some amount is available on the company store, if just a
Yeah.
digital book, But no, this didn't have any of it available. I was like, dude, that's not right.
Yeah, that seems like a missed opportunity there.
Yep.
All right, so my last book of the evening is Amazing Spider-Man number 900. And from here on out, I will refer to Amazing Spider-Man by the legacy number. I don't know what this new numbering system is. So 900 is a giant book. It even has a spine to it. It's so big. So I don't remember how many pages it said it was. It's probably 64,
80
plus pages. Yeah, something like that. It's a $10 book, so it's quite hefty. But when I picked it up, I was like, "Oh my god, this is a big book." so your judgment will judge whether or not you paid enough, paid too much or not enough or whatever. But either way, so the solicitation for this issue made it sound like there was a lot of stories going on in this, and there are 4 stories that are told in this. The 3 of the stories are 2 or 3 pages at most at the back of the book, by different creative teams and everything, and that's great. So a majority of this particular issue is one story dealing with sort of it's not a separate story or anything like that. It's just more of this series, which is great. I was almost afraid we were going to get sort of this. We've built momentum for this series so far that I've enjoyed. Zeb Wells has done a good job with this series, and I was a little concerned that we were going to sort of after that build up sort of drop, with this big book, and then sort of pick back up. And sometimes when you do that, you lose that momentum. Even though this book's coming out like every other week now, there's momentum that gets dropped. We don't get that with this. This is just just the next part of Peter's life. Things are, being brought up, sort of, the only person I don't think we saw was the insurance guy on his stoop. It's the only thing that from every issue we have gotten, we hadn't got it here. But we end up getting, the living, I forgot, it's the living brain, but they called it, there was like a third word in there, but basically it's the living brain, new version of this character. And they ended up sort of creating their own body, and in doing so, they their creator was trying to figure out who Spider-Man was or is. And so that was, so when they killed their creator to take over his life, that became their focus, is to figure out who Spider-Man is. And in doing so, they thought, well, how better to figure out who Spider-Man is, but to figure out who loves Spider-Man, or who Spider-Man loves, who uh, who who he is in conflict with, and so the Sinister Six became a focus. Now we don't get to see in these pages how the Living Brain found the Sinister Six, how he captured them all, Doc Ock, Electro, Vulture, Craven, Sandman, and Mysterio. We don't get any of that, which is fine. That's a whole different thing. Not important for this story. But he then takes their sort of personality, persona, programs it into a new super adaptoid that is the Sinister Six, and then sends that robot to to find Spider-Man. Um, so there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes on, but the gist of it is that in order to find out who Spider-Man is, the Living Brain has to do all of this stuff. So he ends up capturing, Flash Thompson and Felicia Hardy and Bobby Chase, and Robbie Robertson and Aunt May. These people that Peter has cared for and loved over the years, and trying to figure out who he is. And in doing so, Peter, finds the Sinister Six captured, is telling basically the only way that I'm going to beat the super adaptoid is if we all work together, which it is. Wells does a really good job because the series has been pretty serious up to this point, for the last 5 issues, and it's had a little bit of humor, but there's a lot that is going on. And this issue sort of leans a lot more into Peter being sort of comedic, back to the quick quips and stuff like that. Hyper Potato, I already hate the relaunches. It really irks me that they switch back numbering to cash in on anniversary issues too. This message brought to you by a grouchy old man, a new cologne from Calvin Klein. And I totally get that. I kind of got over the relaunches. I just look at it as just the next issue. But yeah, that used to irritate me quite a bit. I just gave up on being that concerned about it these days. This grouchy old man has too many other things to worry about than the number of the issue. But Spider-Man teams up with the Sinister Six. They all sort of are reluctant to work together. They are fighting amongst themselves and arguing who should kill Spider-Man afterwards, to the point where Super Adaptoid, who is emulating the Sinister Six, sort of blows up on itself because it is having internal conflict because it has the Sinister Six personalities, all 6 of them. Excuse me. And so in arguing with itself, it just sort of melts down. The brain just kind of and then falls over. And they're like, all right, well, who wants to kill Spider-Man now? That kind of thing. Just immediately, all right, thanks for the partnership. Thanks for getting us, saving our butts and everything. All right, now it's time to, kill you. They obviously don't, but there's it the Living Brain sort of figures out along the way, not per se who Spider-Man is, that he's Peter Parker, although he does do that, but doesn't reveal that to anybody. It's not until the very, very end when the Living Brain decides to take the Sinister Six and take them somewhere else, is what he says. Peter's like, I'd prefer you to take them to jail, but wherever you're taking them, I'm sure they'll be, okay under your control, I guess. So it's sort of this, mistaken means, like the Living Brain doesn't know how to deal with this, how to figure out who Peter is or who Spider-Man is through sort of conversation, but has to see things in action and see how people react and things like that, and then sort of builds his own opinion of who Peter or who Spider-Man is, and it more becomes who the hero is, because he realizes, because Peter was going to sacrifice himself to keep the Sinister Six from killing the Brain, and so it dealing with heroes and those kind of themes and stuff like that, to where the living brain sort of kind of understands who Spider-Man is and understands who Peter is. It was a really good issue. The art is done by Ed McGuinness, who I had not seen do interior work in a very long time. But as soon as I opened up the book, I'm like, that's Ed McGuinness. Sweet. It does really good stuff throughout the entire story. It's not one of those things like his best stuff is in the early pages or anything like that. His action sequences are great. I've really been enjoying Zeb Wells' writing on this series up to this point. I'm sort of fearful because there's some Judgment Day crossover issues coming up with Wolverine and other people in that storyline that I'm not super excited for. So we'll kind of see how Wells sort of navigates that. But if he gives John Romita Jr. a chance to draw Wolverine again, I'm all for it. So, so we'll see. But yeah, so it just, for such a big book, I was a little afraid that it wasn't going to hold consistent throughout the whole issue, and it did it with flying colors. I was really impressed with this. So every once in a while, Marvel can put together a big book like this and do a good job. So good job, everybody. All right, that's it. I think we're done. Got anything else before we get out of here?
I think the Superior Spider-Man was my favorite Spider-Man.
I really enjoyed that. I think, and I like the fact that they still refer to that.
I noticed
even in this issue,
his girlfriend. I didn't realize we hadn't seen her too much. I've read the first 3 issues, I think, and we saw her like once.
Yeah.
Just to bring home the fact that Peter has done something to piss everybody off, including her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made me remember the I guess the first, would it be the first volume of Superior Spider-Man? And how much I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was a really good run. And I think the sort of interesting thing is that Otto or Doc Ock still, even prior to that, was still that sort of character that I don't want to say understood Peter a little more than everybody else did, but even since then, even though he sort of reverted back to the bowl cut character that he was before, where shortly after Superior he was a completely different character because he was in a clone body and all this other stuff, which was okay, but I didn't enjoy as much. I'm kind of glad he's back into this look now, the classic look. But I think that time period with him being Superior Spider-Man was really, really good.
Yeah, definitely.
And it
different.
Didn't think that it could be pulled off. Didn't think Dan Slott could pull it off. I don't know why I thought that, but I thought it was going to be an extremely short-lived series and it didn't. He went for a couple of years this way, and I thought it was excellent work. So all righty, well, that's about it. So you can come by the website comicaddiction.net. You can come by our forums at justanotherfanboy.freeforums.net. You can join the fun there. You can email us at comicbookaddict@gmail.com. If you've got questions or anything, or if you're we didn't really talk about this last episode, but if you're writing a book or drawing a book or something like that and you want us to talk about it, keep in mind, we're not here to tear down anybody's book. If we think it's bad, we will let you know. Probably not in everybody's best interest if we talk about it or not, but we will give you our fair opinion one way or the other. So you can follow us on Twitter. It's probably the best place to get in contact with us. Follow the site and the podcast at Comic Addiction. You can follow Ed at Teal Productions. You can follow me at Chris Parton. You can join the fun over on Facebook with our Boom Studios group, fans of Boom Studios. and join the conversation there. I think that's about it.
I believe so.
Cool. All right. Well, this is episode number 142. Next week is 143. I want to thank all of you for listening. The great crowd that was in the chat tonight. Appreciate all of you coming by. Appreciate all of you who are listening to us after the fact on our podcast, all the different podcast places that you can find us. Thank you very much for listening. And as always, we just appreciate all of you. Ed, thank you for joining me as always.
Yes, sir.
And we will catch all of you next week. Goodbye.
Ciao.
I almost feel like I need to write the end of the show. Like I get the closeout info, and then it becomes, all right, Chris is going to just free flow there for a little bit. That's never a good idea.
However you want to, no big deal.
All right, everybody. Thank y'all again for joining us here on YouTube. It's always a good time. And again, a good number of y'all joined us, had some good conversation. We do our best to put as much of your comments up on the feed, like this, Doug. Thanks for the great show. Have a great night. Appreciate that. Thank you. But if we don't get you up there, it's not because we're we don't want to respond. There's a 10-second delay, unfortunately. And so sometimes we get a little further past than it is for us to catch up on what our brains are thinking about at the time. So but either way, we do our best and appreciate all y'all hanging out with us. So we're going to go ahead and end the feed, the broadcast. That's the word I was looking for. Broadcast. Thanks, Hyper. And we will catch all of y'all next week. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.